Dungeons and Dragons Adventurer. Issue 6. Alright, I know it's been a bit longer than I wanted between videos, but now we're on to Dungeons and Dragons Adventurer Issue 6. So we've got another adventure. We're finally going to level up, it looks like, and find out about orcs, magic items, and the Kingdom of Many Arrows. And the classic dice. So let's open it up. So anyway, first up here, getting all out of the way, we have our dice. Some nice gold, but also glittery kind of dice. Transparent too, so you can see the numbers through on the other side. These ones look quite nice. And I believe I was recommended to give them to one of the players last issue. But I think I'll keep them for me. And now it's just time to move on to the actual issue. So first up, just going through the contents, it just says, oh, you're now going to reach second level. And as you can see from a lot of the stuff, magic items, but it's got all the second level features for the 4 classes of the included characters. With the issue comes with a set of second level character sheets for the first 4 heroes, plus new features and increased hit points on them, and more dice, yay! And our magic items section, so there's many reasons to go adventuring, mostly for magic items if you don't want treasure, and they come in all sorts of categories, including wondrous items, which is just anything that doesn't fit into the known categories. And it does tell you here, using common sense, you can't have 2 of the same item, for like clothing items, so you can't wear 2 sets of boots at the same time, etc. So a bit more about the magic items. There's 6 different rarities, going all the way from common magic items up to artifact ones. You can also tell if it's magical by either using the identify spell, which is easy, but also you can just focus on it during a short rest while being in contact with it. And at the end, you'll know if it's magical and what its properties are, which is something new to me because I was used to only being able to have magic items deciphered by wizards casting the spells, and now you've got an alternate way, which is quite handy, I guess. Although listen to the top tip there that you might still want to identify spell because some items are cursed. This attunement thing's here new. Some basic stuff like +1 swords, anyone can use that, but some other, it mentions ring of protection, you have to attune to them, so again you've got to spend a short rest holding it, thinking about it, whispering sweet nothings to it, and then it's yours and you can use it as you want. That's something completely new to me. Anyway, some rules are characters can only attune up to 3, but each item can only be attuned to 1. You can't attune to multiple copies of the same. If an item requires attunement, when you're not, you only get its non-magical benefits. And it ends if you're away from it for more than 24 hours, at least 100 feet, you die, someone else attunes to it, or you willingly stop. Unless it's cursed, then you can't willingly stop. Let's move on to leveling up. So the top tip is if you're using the 4 pre-generated characters, then you get to level them up automatically by the character sheets. If not, go to D&D Beyond and type in your class and it will tell you what your second level stuff is. So, moving beyond first level, there's 2 different systems here. Either the encounters follow milestones and after a certain encounter, you will level up, which is what's happened in all the adventures here. And I feel like some sort of D&D campaigns are actually set, so here's where you level up at this point, this point. And the other way there, the more common way and the way I used to do is if you get enough experience points, you hit a certain threshold, you level up. Either way, when your characters level up, first they'll gain hit points, and then you've got to check your character class to see what specifics they get for second level. When gaining hit points, you've got the new standard, take the average roll method, or you've got the old-fashioned method of whatever your hit dice is, roll that. But you also add your constitution bonus, which I don't think you used to do, because I definitely remember I used to have a frail wizard with 1 dice 4 hit points. Top tip, remember to fill in your current total of coins in the money and equipment section of your character sheet. So apart from the coins you gained in the adventure, everything else in the character sheet is basically the same as what you previously had. Still don't know where to use the coins though. And now we get to move on to orcs as a character class and not as a monster, which can be anything from like all the classic warmongering tribes of the north to quite peaceful librarians or this modern almost looking guy just there. Orcs can have great civilizations which can be feared and the warbands can be united. But I was kind of reading this, it talked about many arrows, and I was like, oh, I'm sure that sounds familiar for early in the issue. And it actually goes, the many arrow tribes at Sea Law Sea. So we're going to come to them in a minute. And as usual for our species, all it gives us is more information. Nothing game related, all lore related. So here about the orcs, it talks about all their pantheons, and we've got all of the deities that the orcs would follow. So if you are playing an orc character, you get to choose which of the gods you're going to curse to as you go to battle. And of course, as we don't have any orc features yet, we don't have any orc second level features. Instead, moving on to start with rogues. And rogues get to use all their speed. So they've got skill, speed, and precision. Just a reminder that in your combat turn, you get move, action and bonus action. And as a second level, the rogues now get cunning actions. And what it does is it lets them use these speedy actions as a bonus action rather than their main action. All three of the cunning actions are usually normal actions during combat. So instead of as a bonus action, you can dash, which just lets you move double your speed, so you get to move your speed again. You can disengage, which means any movements you make this round do not get attacks of opportunity from your opponents. Or you can hide, where you just make a dexterity stealth check and attempt to evade opponent. I don't know what hiding is yet, I couldn't see it anywhere. But it seems odd that you'd be able to just hide straight in front of an opponent. But then again, maybe rogues are that sneaky. Okay, I spoke a bit too soon. Here's all the hiding. It talks about the sneak attack combo. But generally, in order to hide, you must break line of sight of your opponent first. So you need to be in an area that has something you can hide behind, like a large furniture or foliage or so on. And then once you're hidden, a creature can't see you. That gives you advantage on your attack rolls. Normally, you can't hide and attack in the same turn, as it does say here, but because the rogues are cunning, they can use the hide through the bonus action and then attack. Enough about the rogues, let's move on to wizards. And the wizard's second level actually is pretty simple, stuff I mostly know. They're going to get more spellcasting stuff. One thing they hear is the arcane tradition. So they become a savant of one of the 8 schools of magic. And what that means is they spend half as much gold to copy spells from that school into their spellbook. And we're talking about the School of Abjuration. So I think I know what spells we're going to be looking at with our wizard. So our wizard gets new spells. And each time a wizard gets a level, they add 2 new spells in the spellbook for free. So the ones we've got here are Shield and Comprehend Language. Shields are actually a reaction spell as well. So remember, from combat, they can also cast, each character can cast a reaction once per round. And that's if you're hit by attack or target by magic missile, you can cast Shield. Either gives you +5 to AC, or in the case of magic missile, just completely stops it. I don't know if this will work on any other magical spells, but it specifically says magic missile. So whether or not that's because it's the only spell that's applicable for so far, or whether that's the only spell the Shield spell actually works for, I don't know. We'll find out. But the new thing here is the Arcane Ward. So Abjuration wizards get a little magical ward around them to protect them. Anytime they cast an Abjuration spell, they use a bit of strand of magic to weave it. And it just talks about how many hit points it's got. It regenerates hit points every time you cast an Abjuration spell. And you need a long rest before you can completely cast a new one. So done with wizards, we're going to move on to clerics, who used to be the other spellcasters. And I guess they are divine magic and arcane magic. There's no mention here of all I used to know when I used to play them. Clerics used to either gain spells or have a greater chance to turn undead. And so clerics get to second level. It does say they get a greater connection to their god's divinity, so they can now channel divinity. And actually, you've got different domains of clerics. So a life cleric can actually now turn undead, which means they couldn't turn undead at first level, which I hadn't thought about. Or they can preserve life. I'm assuming I'll find out what they do when I turn the page. So the clerics preserve life or turn undead. I didn't mention, but they only get to choose one of the 2 options when they channel divinity, and they can only do it once per long rest. So preserve life is the easiest one. They get to heal up to 5 times their cleric level from any creatures within 30 feet of them, although they can't heal a creature above half its maximum. And they can spread it out as they want. And turning undead now has changed slightly. For me, it used to be you could just turn a certain amount of hit dice of undead. However, now it's all undead that can see or hear the cleric must make a wisdom saving throw, and if it fails, it's turned for 1 minute or until it takes any damage. All they do on their turn, if they failed, is just try to move away, so they use the dash action. They won't use any reactions, or they can try to escape from an effect that prevents it from moving. As it's 1 minute, I think that's 10 combat rounds as well that it just keep running away for. The top tip, it's already mentioned it there, but if any of these effects of a saving throw, it equals the cleric's spell save DC. Now we get second level fighters who can turn the tide of battle with a second action on their turn, which sounds quite cool. You normally move, action and bonus action in any order, and it sounds like fighters get to do another action. So here we are. It's called Action Surge, and it just means a fighter at second level can just do an additional action once per short or long rest. There's another way you can do it, and mostly it's the same. You can attack again, you could dash again, disengage, dodge, use an object, so you could use Action Surge to drink a potion, maybe you've been injured, or a shove, which I think is something they've just introduced this issue. But that's a special melee attack. You can either knock a creature prone or push it 5 feet away. They must be no more than 1 size larger within your reach, and it's a strength against a strength or dexterity check. So athletics against athletics or acrobatics. If you knock them prone, you can get advantage attacks as well. So I think you'd probably use Action Surge to first, you'd use your action to shove them, then you'd attack them. Enough with the fighters. On to the lore section, starting with the Kingdom of Many Arrows. as we look at the Orcs we've just learnt about this issue. Maybe we can go here to recruit some Orc heroes for our party. And obviously, these guys are near Phandalin. Yeah, King Obol with many arrows. He died in peace and comfort, but he reigned over the most peaceful and prosperous period in many Arrows history. And there's just a lot of lore background there. Also about here, orcs who follow the deity Grumish, or Grumsh. It's Grumsh One Eye, and they can get some extra powers for it, such as carrying divine rage in battle. But the downside, they need to gouge out one of their eyes. But enough about lore, time for the encounter, Queen of Scars. And as normal, this is for the Dungeon Master's eyes only, so if you plan on playing it as a player, just use the chapters to skip ahead. And the DM top tip, just let the players know they've now got enough experience to go to second level. So as it says here, the encounter is balanced for second level characters, and it said earlier before as well that all encounters are balanced for the levels of the players. But in Phandalin, the town master's got a feast for his brother who's an adventurer. But suddenly, the town's surrounded by orcs. And it's a bit more complicated to do with his brother Mordred. So it sounds like you could have combat, but you might also be able to be political and intrigue. Well, not intrigue, but you might be able to solve it with diplomacy rather than just combat. We'll find out. So this is an interesting encounter. It starts off, it's just got all the text, so throw in your feast. And you get to do some social encounters. There's a couple there, talking to a trader, a singing contest, curious farmer. I was a bit like, what's the point of social encounters? It tells you how to DM them. But then actually, they can do a DC check, or if the role play it really well, no need. But the characters can get inspiration from it. So there is a point to it after all, rather than just fitting in some extra time for the story. Players might want to talk to Mordred, and you can detect he's lying slightly about something when he talks about killing carrion crawlers and wild owlbears. But anyway, eventually the siege will begin, and that's when the orcs are here. You're offered 25 gold pieces to drive them off, plus 10 gold piece per orc. Per orc slain, anyway. So you got orc invaders, and you find them in town, there's 4 of them. Interestingly, because the orcs are here, you can take hostile action and combat them, or you can try diplomacy. But if you try diplomacy, Mordred runs out of his crossbow, and he just shoots at them, which will also start combat if you can't persuade him otherwise. So the adventurers would have to really want to talk to the orcs. Maybe people do these days, I don't know. I'd just go out there and start blasting them. But I do have some demands on their spear, so they either give it to you if you try to parlay, or you'll find it when you kill them. So you can still advance the story and go speak to this Queen of Scars, who's a 30 HP orc, it says. I'm assuming she's got the normal stats of the rest of the orcs. 18 orcs outside, including the chieftain, 12 patrol it, and then you also have the 4 inside. So you have to kill 22 orcs in total if you want to get rid of all of them, I guess. Or that's probably quite a bit of treasure. Anyway, and she does say, actually, her son was murdered by a coward with a crossbow who stole all his goods. Basically, Mordred. So everything we learnt in this issue is coming to play now. This is an interesting scenario that actually, it says here, there's no correct solution and open-ended. It's a shame that because the Adventurer magazine is the magazine, it doesn't matter what choice you do, it doesn't all lead on. But you can try and kill the Queen of Scars, which could be done. You can surrender Mordred, although he won't willingly surrender, and the Town Master doesn't want you to. And you've got negotiations, so you could return the treasure, try and strike some deal with the orcs, yada yada yada. And there's got a thing for checks to make to see if NPCs agree to deals. But anyway, the warband's only going to leave if the Queen of Scars is dead, Mordred is handed over, or some sort of successful deal is made. So the players get to try lots of options, you get to roll lots of dice, make lots of checks, and eventually something will happen. And if they please the orcs, they'll get less orc stone, which is a wondrous item, one of the new things we learned. And it requires attunement to be able to use, but it's only uncommon. It did say earlier as well, but if you give Mordred to the orcs, all of the people in Phandalin are going to be unhappy with you. But again, that doesn't really lead, unless in the next issue it says, oh, if they're unhappy, you can't do this. It doesn't really matter, because these are all one-shots in a way. But yeah, so here's our orcs, stat blocks, and you can see they normally have 15, Queen of Scars gets 30, all the rest is standard orc stuff. And we also get the Thug stat block, so now we can fight some thugs if we need to. Although this is actually what's used for Mordred if he becomes in the combat with the orcs. And then finally, it's time to move on to all our character sheets, and we can see just how they've changed compared to first level as well. Obviously the second level stuff, and in case there's anything they've modified or fixed in between. We begin with Krantor, and his character sheets are exactly identical, except for the fact he's traded his 15 copper pieces he started with for the cunning action feature trait. Moving on to Razorgar, and there's a bit more difference here. So I didn't notice earlier, originally in the proficiencies, or for the skills anyway, they had a D for stealth and it was -1. That's now gone now. I'm not sure what that means because obviously the P is proficient, isn't it? I'll have to go back. I'm a bit curious about that. Again, 15 gold pieces, not copper pieces. I got it wrong last guy. The 15 gold pieces are gone. And I guess if you've used crossbow bolts, you've now refreshed to 20, or you'd also have to edit the crossbow bolts too. The main bit being, there's so many features and traits, they've had to cut some out. So the Disciple of Life section they've just removed. It's already included in the spell descriptions, so it's not really needed to be in there if they've already done it. And Stone Cunning, they've just shortened the box. They've added about your Channel Divinity, Turn Undead, Preserve Life, and they've removed a bit about cantrips and spellcasting. It's just, I guess, all the little bits you should know. One thing they did move, which is odd because they've actually got it wrong as well, is Dwarven Toughness. So your hit points maximum increases by 1, and it increases by 1 every time you gain a level. So I believe I talked about it in the comparison video for issue 0 to issue 1. But the hit points maximum over here is 10, and here is 19, which means it's gone up by 9. But that doesn't make sense, because one hit dice is 1 dice 8. Average of 1 d8 is 4.5, so you gain 5 hit points per level, plus your constitution bonus, which is 2. So that's 7, plus the Dwarven Resilience. Dwarven Toughness, which is 8. So, to get to 19, the original hit points should be 10. And I'm pretty sure originally there were 11, and then it was a copy-paste error, changed, because Rituals also said 11. So I think they just copy and pasted, changed all the 11s to 10s. I'm sure it should be 11. So that's, looks incorrect. That should be the correct number. On the back though, this all looks right and up to scratch. So there's now an extra 3rd spell slot for 1st level spells, which I don't think you mentioned in the feature section in the book, but it looks like clerics now get to cast a 3rd spell. And also they've now pre-ticked Bless and Cure Wounds, because as a Disciple of Life, you always have Bless and Cure Wounds prepared. So now they've pre-ticked the boxes for you to make it simple. Now we get into Arena, the Wood Elf Fighter, which has mostly the same. Interestingly, the strength dot is now gone. You know, it's still there for the saving throw bonus. They've just removed the dot for some reason. Not certain why. It must be a mistake. Lost all the money. And there was an odd thing about the original character sheet where the attacks and spellcasting box was actually 6 boxes instead of 5, which was the standard for everyone else. I don't know why, but they've now refixed it so the character sheet's the same size as the rest. And they've removed the Fleet of Foot from the features and traits, obviously because they need to fit all the text in the box, and because the speed's already set at 35, so there's no need to have that in there. All the rest though looks perfectly fine. And with the final character sheet, we move on to Merovich, who everything looks normal. Lost all your gold, obviously you've got to fill it in on the level 2, swap these around so it matches all the rest of the characters. But they've actually made the box bigger, if you can see, because they've got to include more text about the Arcane Tradition, but there's actually none of this you can remove because it's all stuff you need to refer to, it's not built in. With spell casting, you now prepare 6 spells, cast up to 3, and on the back you can see here we've now got the 2 new spells, Comprehend Language and Shield, added to the spellbook, and 3 spell slots to cast. Yeah, that was issue 6, done it out of the way. So the next issue 7 is coming up with all of the stuff you see here. So when there's more videos, about 6 will be up there, videos and series will be there. Otherwise, thanks for watching, hope to catch you soon.